You're a Wizards fan. They have the 6th pick and the 18th pick in the 2025 NBA draft. First, I want to ask you, how crushed were you lottery night?
I was really crushed, and I actually thought back to a conversation that I had with you on this podcast near the end of the season. The Wizards, it was game 82, and the Wizards won. And I joked with you, like, at the end of the day, it's good basketball karma. If they slide to 6, such is life. I'll gouge my eyes out, something to that effect. And there I was on lottery. The reason I was joking with you is because it just never crossed my mind that the Wizards could be as crappy as they were all season long and then get screwed the way they did on lottery night. I knew statistically that was a possibility, but in my gut, I thought it was going to work out. And boy, was that a mistake.
God.
We're sitting at 6. I did not really spend much time thinking about the sort of prospects who are going to be available at 6 because I spent the entire season thinking that the Wizards were going to be somewhere in the top 3 and that Ace Bailey versus VJ Edgecombe was my worst case scenario as a Wizards fan, and that debate. Alas, I'm going to have to look a tier or 2 below the top 3 guys.
It's disappointing, man. Cooper's a sure thing to be a good player.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got a chance to be an amazing player for number 1. Dylan Harper, depending on who you ask, some people say he's a can't miss prospect. Others say, well, we'll see. We'll see about Dylan Harper. Ace Bailey, very split on him. But I think, from 3 to 10, it's pretty flat. Like, obviously you'd rather be at 3 than at number 6 because you'd get to choose from more players. But I do think there's a number of guys that are, beauties in the eye of the beholder in this year's draft class where at number 6, a team might have the guy at number 6 ranked 3 on their board. So is there anybody, as you've assessed options at that 6th pick, that you're like, okay, I really like him for Washington in this spot. I think he could be a steal here.
Well, I need your help. You're the draft expert. And so I have not really put in the time, crunched tape on someone like Tre Johnson. How should I feel about Tre Johnson as a candidate at number 6?
Well, I interviewed Tre Johnson last week.
Oh, okay.
Here on this podcast, if you want to learn about him as a person. Very funny, very quick. We had some good back and forths. I like Tre. I was impressed when I kind of pushed him on some of his flaws, the at-rim finishing, talked about the playmaking and things of that nature. And, I think he has an understanding of who he is, what his strengths are, and what he needs to get better at. With Tre Johnson, I think he'd be an excellent pick at number 6 if he makes it there. I worry about the fit next to Jordan Poole. Bub Carrington. I think you might have too much of kind of a similar thing in the backcourt. I'd look to move Jordan Poole immediately if I draft Tre Johnson. I would not want them together. I would not want Tre Johnson learning bad habits from Jordan Poole, even though Poole had some good moments last year. He had his best 3-point shooting season of his career. I think it's too much of the same thing. With Tre Johnson, I think the dude's arguably the best shooter in the class. Kon Knueppel, you could make a case for him as well. Among some guys like Kobe Brea from Kentucky, 2nd-round picks, Peyton Sanford from Iowa, guys like that who can shoot the hell out of it. But as lottery picks, it's Tre Johnson or Kon Knueppel. The dude is an amazing bucket getter, coming off of screens and off of handoffs.
Yep.
Pull-up jumpers. The dude can hit shots from anywhere on the floor with confidence. He's clutch. There's like an it factor about him. If you're banking on a guy to surpass Dylan Harper as like the 2nd best player in the class, to me, Tre Johnson is the guy that I bet on him. So I think the upside is significant. I was kind of surprised. I asked him, like, what's your best player comparison, current or historical? And he said, I've always liked the prime Ray Allen comparison. Prime Ray Allen from the Milwaukee days, the Sonics days. And part of it was, because the shooting, but also because Ray Allen at that time was a good downhill attacker.
I was going to say, he could put the ball on the floor at that point.
Exactly. So I think Tre Johnson, he said to me, he's like, teams want me to dunk more. And he says, I hope at the combine I did show I'm a better athlete than people think I am. So, he didn't get to the rim a lot at Texas, and he wasn't that good at finishing at the rim, only 46% on half-court layup attempts. But I like him. I like him a lot. I think he's got like a stars mentality. Like you put that against Kon Knueppel.
Love to hear a stars mentality. Let's do it.
Yeah, like Kon, I asked him, what's your best comparison? He's like, I'd love to play like Klay Thompson. Like he's embracing the backseat role, the co-star role, right? For the Wizards, I don't want to draft Kon Knueppel. I want the star. I want to swing. So
do
Tre
you
Johnson,
think will Knueppel be available at 6?
Good question. I if I'm Philly, I think about him at 3.
Yeah.
Like at Philly, do you want the Ace Bailey, mystery box, or do you want Kon Knueppel, the sure thing, high end role player? Like, what do you want if you're Philly at 3? And then at Charlotte, I think really likes VJ Edgecombe at 4. I'd be a little bit surprised if Charlotte doesn't take Edgecombe at number 4, based off of what I'm hearing. Utah at 5. Then again, like Edgecombe, maybe he goes 3. Who knows? It's always possible. But Utah at 5, similar. Obviously they got screwed like you guys did on lottery night. And if I'm them, I'm swinging. I'm not taking Knueppel. So who knows? Maybe Knueppel ends up there for you at 6. Do you like him for the Wizards?
I love Knueppel. I got to be honest. You're selling me on Tre Johnson. I like the upside. I like that he's aware of his shortcomings, and I love that he's enough of a hoops head to comp himself to Bucks Ray Allen. That's great work from the next generation there. So all of that has me intrigued by Tre Johnson. I think sitting at 6 as a Wizards fan, I am resigned to the idea that they're not going to find a number 1 guy and a franchise player. And I would say that where you make mistakes is by trying to will that into existence at number 6. And so rather than try to make Tre Johnson, Jeremiah Fears, Ace Bailey into the cornerstone that you've been tanking for the past couple of years, you just bide your time and take Kon Knueppel, knowing that he's going to be really good and projects as somebody who can definitely be part of a playoff nucleus once it's time to eventually make the playoffs sometime in my lifetime. And I would opt for that sort of safe, patient approach and another very aggressive tank next season when there are like 3 or 4 other guys who are potential franchise cornerstones. But if they end up with Tre Johnson, I would be fine with that. How do you feel about Jeremiah Fears? Another question on the way out here.
I like Fears a lot. I think Fears, obviously, he's on the smaller side, a little over 6 foot, but ultimately with him, man, bucket getter, hit a ton of clutch shots this year at Oklahoma. The shot creation, he can get anywhere he wants to on the floor. With him, he did not shoot threes at a great level as a freshman, but ultimately I'm banking on his shot. He's got an elite floater, 50% on floaters, 85% from the free throw line. Great mid-range shooter, 44% on mid-range jumpers. And so with him, it's like just extending the range to 3. There's no guarantee of it as a smaller guy. He only shot 18.6% on dribble jumper threes, but the mid-range touch, the floater touch, the free throw line touch, he was pretty good on catch and shoot threes as well at 36%. I think that number will easily go up. Over time, I think Fears is one of those potential engines of a team over the long term, and I like his playmaking as well. So Fears would be a good fit as well. The issue with Washington is like Bob Carrington, like Keyshawn George, and Jordan Poole. How much of buy-in is there with there? Like, are you worried about position? Are you worried about fit? Do you believe in those guys as the long-term guards of the future, or are you saying screw it? They're not. Let's take somebody else who actually could be.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons Knueppel is appealing to me is he slides in as a wing who can fit with just about anybody.
Sure.
Whereas if you're taking someone like Fears, you want the ball in his hands, and they have Bub Carrington, who was pretty good throughout the season and particularly in the second half. So I would guess that the Wizards won't draft another Bub Carrington type player unless he's like a guaranteed franchise changing guy available in next year's draft. But
Trading up, maybe like that possibility if they went from 6-2, Dylan Harper, something like that. But ultimately, maybe a next year type of thing. Because next year is way more loaded. At 6-18, would you be happy if Derik Queen with a pick from Maryland? Keep him home.
Well, this is the thing, KOC. I arrive at draft season. I used to be like a dyed-in-the-wool draft guy, would follow it all year and have fully formed takes by the time we got to April and May. Now I podcast about technology and U.S.-China affairs. And I've got all sorts of other stuff that I'm dealing with. And
Sharp Tech, Sharp China under the Stratechery platform.
That's right. That's
Ben
right.
Thompson's
good plug from you.
Unbelievable blog and podcast network where you can also find your pod with Ben Golliver. Go.
You can subscribe at my Twitter at Andrew Sharp. There's a link there. And so I'm trying to keep up with a bunch of different worlds, and I don't really have time to watch college basketball all season. So I arrive at the draft, and I watched Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, and Cooper Flagg. Those were the three guys I chose to watch this year. Not impressed with Ace Bailey, let me tell you that much. Cooper, terrific. I wish him nothing but the best down there in Dallas. So I look at like Derik Queen. He's a local guy, a good story. But for the life of me, I can't understand why he's projected to go lottery. He doesn't seem very athletic. He doesn't seem like he can shoot. He doesn't seem like he fits with what the big man position has turned into in the modern era. And yet for months now, he's been projected as like a surefire lottery pick. For a while, there were people floating him in the top 10. I don't think he's being projected to go like 6 to the Wizards, but I saw some Wizards fans wanted to draft him. I don't get it. Can you help fill in some of the blanks here?
It's the Şengün Sabonis construct with Derik Queen as a skilled big who can attack the rim. It's the Naz Reid style drives to the rim. The game winner he had in the Sweet 16 where he attacks from the perimeter and hits that leaning jumper. It's the skill you're betting on with him as a passer and scorer from the big man position that makes him appealing. But ultimately, I share some of the concerns with you. What level can he reach defensively? He is a poor athlete. I think he's a worse athlete than Şengün, who won an MVP in the Turkish league when he was just a teenager.
Yeah.
Şengün was an awesome player overseas before the NBA. Sabonis was a better college player at Gonzaga than Derik Queen was at Maryland. So with Queen, I think, it's kind of like the Jokic, Charizard, the Charizard versus Charmander type of meme you see with Sabonis and Şengün and Jokic. Queen, is he somewhere in the middle? Or is he like a lower end Şengün?
What is Charizard? Is that? Did you just drop a Pokemon reference on me?
Pokemon reference, yes.
There you go.
Exactly. It's like the evolved version of Charmander.
This is the difference between the younger millennial generation and the older millennial generation. I mean, yeah, I wish him nothing but the best. I think his story is cool. His season at Maryland was great. But if you're throwing out Şengün comps, I worry about building around Şengün, which sounds like the best possible outcome for Derik Queen, and also doesn't sound like a particularly realistic timeline for Derik Queen. So again, I hope he succeeds, but I hope he doesn't end up in Washington, D.C. I think it's my takeaway.
Too much pressure for him in Washington. I'd prefer to see him fall into the late lottery to like an ideal spot